Welcome to our lesson regarding SCADA screen design objects. In this lesson, I will explain some of the objects found under the extended category. We have previously covered some of these objects. In this lesson, we will continue with the remaining ones. I am adding an event view object to my screen. With this object, you can track the actions performed by operators on SCADA screens. In order for records to be created, the event recording option must be enabled in the Setup section. Now, let's start the runtime. When the runtime starts, we can see that some records are created. The time information here shows the moment when the runtime was started. On the line below, we can see the time when the runtime was stopped. For example, when I click on this label, I change the value of the label. At the same time, a new record is created immediately. You can see that it is recorded as checkbox 0 tag value changed to true. Under the chart column, we can display more meaningful descriptions instead of checkbox 0. To do this, we select the object and use the comment field in the Properties section. For example, I typed Wise SCADA here. Let's start the runtime again and immediately see the result. Now, when we click the object, the text Wise SCADA is displayed in the chart column. We have explained this structure in our previous lessons as well. You can configure this object and all its sub-objects from the Advanced section. Under the Child Controls heading, you can find the properties of other objects contained within this object. For example, let's select the Real-Time button and open its properties window. First, let's change the image property. I select this image. The selected image is now displayed next to the button. Now let's change the button text. We can see the new text displayed on the button as well. You can review all properties of this object in detail on the Help page. Now let's move on to our next object. Another object I want to cover here is the Tag Monitor. The Tag Monitor object allows you to monitor tags and PLC connections through a single structure during runtime. It is especially useful during commissioning processes. Let's expand the networks here. Here we can see the real-time value of the tag. We can also monitor the times when the tag was last read, written, and changed. We have two columns named State and Status. In these columns, we can see whether communication with the PLC is active and whether the connection is healthy. For example, here a network is defined. I link the start property of this network to a tag. When I set this tag, communication will start. As you can see, communication has started. The state field has turned green. Since the PLC connection is established, the PLC status field also appears green. When we stop communication, the state turns red again. We can also manually enter the set value from here. Communication has started again. By entering the true value, we have completed the set operation. We can also change the column headers on this object. To do this, we access the Result Grid Columns property. Let's change the name of the first column. In the header text field, it says Object. When we change this to X, we can see that the column header is updated. Now let's move on to another object. The User Manager object. We define users from the Setup section. Let's add a few users here. Let's configure the user level values here. Let's define a password for each user. As an example, I define passwords as 1, 2, and 3. To demonstrate the login process more clearly, I added a button and used the user level tag in the enable property. I set the button to be active when this tag value is greater than 5. I am adding another button. With this button, I will open the login screen. Under Events, in the mouse down event, I select the screen function to open the login page. I prefer it to open using the dialog method. Now let's start the runtime. As you can see, the button is inactive because we have not logged in yet. When we enter the username and password on the login screen, the button becomes active. You can use the login screen we prepared in this way. Alternatively, you can perform the same operations by adding the User Manager object directly to the SCADA page. I performed the logout operation through this object. And the button has become inactive again. When we log in again, the button will become active. So why do we use this object? Because you can customize the text on this object according to your own language. From the Child Controls section, let's change the text on the login button. For example, let's set it as X. You can also add an image here. You can also change the button color and other visual properties. This object contains add, update, and delete buttons. If you wish, you can make these buttons invisible. For example, let's make the update button invisible. When we set the visible property to false, the update button is no longer displayed. With this object, you can add users during runtime. Similarly, you can delete users. However, for that, we need to configure a setting. In the Setup section, a password level is defined for user add and delete operations. There is also an authorization option here. We must grant permission for user add and delete operations during runtime using this option. Currently, only the admin user has this authorization. Therefore, we will perform these operations using the admin user. To add a new user, we must first log in as admin. When we click the Add button, we can define the username, password, and authorization level here. When we click OK, the user is created. Similarly, when we select a user and click Delete, we can remove the user. Thank you for watching our lesson.